Say home is where my daddy is because around him is when I feel safest. My dad taught me to be hardworking. I truly believe he is the reason for the conscience inside of me that makes me believe I can go after whatever I want. I am most definitely a go get it type of person, thanks to him. My dad was born and raised in Washington and migrated as a migrant worker from the States to Mexico each year. He finally decided migrating would be a little more difficult once my mom and him began to start a family. They decided to buy a single semi and start a trucking business, which would allow my father to make more money driving apples, onions, and potatoes from state to state. My dad had to make the decision to be away from home for a couple of days each month to make sure my mom and us kids were stable enough to live comfortably. As a little girl, I remember missing my daddy dearly and being upset at him for leaving us for several days. I remember being so upset that he could almost never watch me compete in the sports I loved to play. And as I grew up, I realized the dedication my dad had to my family. He was and is still willing to work as hard as he has to make sure his children have what they need and want. But a lot has changed, but for the better. My dad is now an owner of several semi-trucks and has a trucking business, which is being run by my mom and him. Despite the diabetes that has always tried slowing my dad down, I have not once ever seen my dad give up. Siempre le voy a echar ganas a la vida por él. Pero para la mamá más cariñosa del mundo. She is the complete rock of my family. My mom was born and raised in Jalisco, Mexico, until she was 19 years old. But shortly after meeting my dad, she decided to move to the States with him. I admire her most for all the changes she had to make and all the new adjustments. My mom was willing to work and do whatever it took to make it by. All the hours under the sun, the backaches from the fields, but as long as her kids had it all. I promise if any of you ever met my mom and gave her at least 5 minutes to talk, you'd be so convinced of her kind heart, and she probably would have made you laugh by then. My mom has always been willing to help me with whatever I need. Although she's only 4'10", she's literally my biggest cheerleader in life. Every stage of my life, she has been there. I tell her my dreams and aspirations in life, and her response is always, Yo sé que si puedes, Lani. And for that, I always promise her the world. These are my siblings. Mandy, being the oldest, she is the mom of my youngest nephew, Avram. She is the owner of a clothing store in Mexico and is currently living there. Second oldest is Yesenia, who is the mom to my oldest nephew, Rylan, and my niece, Yeslin, who I seriously adore so much. Her and her family recently moved back to Washington State after living in San Diego. She just graduated from a dental school there and decided to move back home. Up on the left corner is my oldest brother, Rolly, who is newly married and is expecting their first baby girl. And then my older sister, Yeseli, who I usually literally always get mistaken for on campus. She's about to graduate in a couple weeks and will be moving to California to live the designer life there. And last, but definitely not least, my little brother Justin, who I seriously love, maybe even too much, because I'm super protective, but I just want him on a good path through middle school and high school. I put happiness as having siblings, because I remember when all of us lived at home, there was never really a dull moment. We were always either messing around with our parents or with one another. I never really had time for TV or boredom because I always had them, and they will forever be my best friends. I grew up in little old Warden, where it smells like poop every single day. But hey, they did always say to suck it up, it was the smell of money. Even if I could go back and relocate where I was raised, I wouldn't. Because in Warden, you'll meet some of the most down-to-earth people. Funny, kind, and most humble. Growing up, I pretty much played sports the entire time. I was, I guess you can say, a little tomboy. I wanted to be outside riding bikes, dissecting insects, and making clubhouses in every field there was in town. But fast forward to high school. I was super involved. Was a class officer all 4 years, was a sports assembly host, was in FBLA, which is Future Business Leaders of America, was in FFA, Future Farmers of America, and band. Yes, I played the clan. I definitely spent a lot of my time on the court and on the diamond. I guess you could say, just like a lot of you, I did the same thing to keep busy so I wouldn't be put to work like my older siblings. Every summer, starting at age 14, I played on a softball tournament travel team. And I spent weekends all around Washington State and some in Oregon and California, which got super expensive. And I had sponsors, but my parents were mostly the ones paying. So I started to realize how hard it was getting for them. So one summer, I decided I would work during the week and play ball the weekends, which resulted in a really tough summer, by the way. But I guess you could say that was the eye-opener for me in high school. Because I learned a lot about myself, 2015 was and has been the most successful year for me as a person. I learned to love myself, most importantly. A lot was through the help of my total idol, Ashley Graham. My favorite quote of hers is up there. Remember to love every inch of you. I also decided on a communication major. I knew that communications would allow me to express the creativeness within me and be able to work with that. This year, my faith has also become very strong. I grew a relationship with God, and I was very involved with my youth group. Choosing Wazoo was one of the best decisions of my life. It's always been preferable school for my family, and I'm so glad I decided to come. I have accomplished so much here. I have made some lifelong friends here, and we've made a ton of memories. And that's what college is all about, right? To the coolest ones around, obviously camp, you are all the legit cool kids. And I'm so glad I chose camp. A huge shout out to Ray for leading me exactly where I needed to go. When I first came into his office, I knew I wanted to certify as soon as I could. And all the times I doubted, he would always be super positive, no matter how late I would show up. I can proudly say I have achieved early certification into the Murrow College of Communications at Washington State University. And that is my life.